This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website or online store, make it with Squarespace. I think Spider-Man Homecoming gets a bad rap amongst Spider-Man fans. After one god-awful reboot and an intriguing if understandably short-lived introduction in Captain America Civil War, I think Homecoming did an admirable job at fleshing out the webhead's place within the MCU. Of course, I can see why fans are tough on Spider-Man movies, because they have the Holy Trilogy to contend with. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is still the gold standard for not only Spider-Man adaptations but superhero adaptations in general. At the height of his powers, Sam Raimi gave us Spider-Man 2, which is up there with the likes of Superman the movie and the Avengers for being the genre-defining how-tos of superhero moviedom. One of the reasons why the Raimi movies are so good is in part due to the villains that Tobey Maguire's webhead faced. We got a range of rich, interesting antagonists that Raimi took time to establish and weave into the themes of each respective story, from Norman Osborn to Otto Octavius, and dare I say, whilst not quite to the same standard, Harry Osborn and Flint Marko too. While Spider-Man Homecoming isn't quite up there with the gold standard of Spider-Man 1 and 2, and the more recent Into the Spider-Verse, I think its antagonist is a masterstroke. Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, channels everything that made the likes of the Osborns and the Ottos so compelling. There's no doubt to me that the Vulture's a Raimi villain, and by that I don't mean to imply that director John Watts and the writers are merely imitators of what came before, more in that their approach is evocative of what Sam Raimi's team behind the original trilogy did so well. I think if you're someone who counts Homecoming out, it's worth looking at the parallels between how both Raimi and Watts tackled Spidey's nemesis. There's a handful of traits to each Raimi villain that made them so special and so perfect for Spider-Man's message, as well as being pertinent for Peter Parker's specific story in that movie. I've gone back through the original trilogy and picked out 3 key traits that I believe are the key to crafting a good Sam Raimi villain. First off, a personal connection. Now I know that might seem a little broad, every hero-villain relationship should have some sort of personal connection to be fair.
Thanos has been inside my head for 6 years, since he sent an army to New York and now he's back!
But Raimi's villains always went the extra mile to stoke the flames of a personal connection that often filled a spot in Peter's heart and served as a proxy for an absent family member. Both Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius respected Peter like a son.
I respect that. You want to make it on your own steam. That's great.
Norman saw him as the son he never had and always championed him in front of his actual son, Harry, who was often left feeling unloved and undervalued. This in turn helped push the Osborn heir to villainy in a deluded attempt to posthumously please his father.
Avenge me! No!
Otto was more tough love, seeing the potential in Peter if only he'd turn up on time and pull his finger out.
Intelligence is not a privilege, it's a gift, and you use it for the good of mankind.
Harry Osborn in turn treated Peter like a brother, which we saw play out across the whole trilogy. This relationship came to a head in the final movie when he suited up as the New Goblin. Who the hell thought that was a good name? Spider-Man 3 doesn't give enough time to this relationship because it's juggling 3 separate villain arcs all at once that barely intersect. But even so, the final turn of the hero-villain relationship is a doozy, as we see Harry choose light over dark, even sacrificing himself in the process.
None of that matters, Peter. You're my friend. Best friend.
Spider-Man 3 really does at least get to honour the friendship we saw grow and subsequently deteriorate, and I like that it's a somewhat bittersweet ending for Raimi's Peter and MJ. A tragedy taken out of their hands. As a kid growing up on these movies, the Spider-Man villains being sympathetic was something that always stood out to me as being distinct. It was around the same time I was growing up on a steady diet of Star Wars prequels, other superhero movies, Doctor Who, and really ancient movies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sigourney Weaver. And 9 times out of 10 the villains were pure evil, which worked very well in some cases, others not so much.
This is gonna be fun!
But the Raimi villains were different. Even someone vicious like the Green Goblin, who revelled in killing people or doing the unspeakable evil of pretending to be a sweet old lady, displayed vulnerability when the virtuous side of himself was forced to contend with his own actions.
You killed them. We killed them.
You begin to realise that Norman Osborn is a slave to the Green Goblin, in many ways as much a victim as any of the people who've died at the demonic goblin's hands. Otto Octavius loses his wife, his life's work, and awakes to find himself a monster. Sam Raimi obviously didn't create the sympathetic villain, but the reason why I think it's key to crafting a Green Goblin or a Doc Ock is because of their tragic aspects tying into that aforementioned personal connection. It isn't just sad that these guys had tragic things happen to them, it directly drives how Peter's personal connection with them is affected. Peter often takes pity on them, recognising the times where life has dealt them a bad hand. He will stop at nothing to change them for the better if he thinks there's a way.
Sometimes, to do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.
So when he manages to succeed and pulls Otto back to the light, we're reminded what being a true hero is about: saving people. But it's not as simple as that, which leads me to my final factor. A tragedy taken out of their hands, but still to blame for their actions. Sure, Otto Octavius remembers the value in doing the right thing, to be selfless above all else, and to make sure that the well-being of people supersedes the need to achieve one's dreams. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't be held accountable for the things he did.
Keep calm! It's only a spike! It'll soon stabilize!
It was his arrogance, his refusal to shut off the machine that led to his wife Rosie's death. He didn't for a second think about the fact that he could have destroyed half of New York as he haphazardly tried to keep the experiment under control. Yes, the arms may display artificial intelligence, they might be manipulating Otto into doing terrible things.
Steal it? No, I'm not a criminal. That's right. The real crime would be not to finish what we started.
But to say that Otto is a victim would be a misnomer. The arms are a manifestation of the arrogance and darkness that were already there.
Find him. Or I'll peel the flesh off her bones.
Norman, whilst clearly becoming mentally unstable, knows full well what he's doing when he tries to murder the people who he felt wronged him, or to gain an upper hand over Spider-Man.
The goblin killed. I had nothing to do with it.
In fact, in the final battle, it's that tragic facet we've explored that Norman weaponizes in a last-ditch effort to kill Peter. We think that Norman is back for good, that he might break free of his evil ways, just as we would come to see Otto do. But in actuality, the Goblin has taken over completely.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
But then, maybe a hint of Norman was still there.
Peter.
Don't tell Harry.
But it's too late, and the audience should remember that. Also, whilst we're here, I just want to say that this is one of the best final fights in any superhero movie. Peter gets battered, and it's terrifying. It's the perfect way to slap the audience awake and let them know that whoever Norman Osborn was, or can be, the man before them is vicious, calculating, and without mercy. In both cases, it's equal parts ego and ambition that leads to their worst selves.
I mean, if you just give me 2 weeks.
2 weeks? In 2 weeks, we'll have lost the contractor quest, and Oscorp will be dead.
I certainly know the consequences of the slightest miscalculation.
Peter loses things and faces great challenges just as they did, but he chooses to be his best self. He chose to be responsible with the power he held, and both Norman and Otto reflect a flagrant dismissal of that responsibility. In fact, it's only by explaining this to Harry that he then realises his father was the villain.
But there's no question that he died by his own hand.
The Goblin killed his father, not his best friend. Otto and Harry's arcs remind us of perhaps Aunt May's most important line ever.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
So, how does Spider-Man Homecoming play with a personal connection and give us a reason to empathise with, but also disavow, Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture?
He must be Peter.
What's so interesting about the personal connection between Parker and Toomes is that it is of course structured in Homecoming as a twist. Peter spends most of the movie viewing Toomes as the flying vulture guy. He sees him as an outright evil that must be extinguished. There's no nuance to it, in much the same way he blindly aligned himself with Stark in Civil War.
Stark tell you anything else?
That you're wrong, you think you're right, makes you dangerous.
This all makes sense. because he's a child, younger than Raimi's Spider-Man ever was when we knew him. We, the audience, meet Toomes under different circumstances. The tragedy taken out of their hands for Adrian Toomes is a financial one. His business scores a huge opportunity when they get first dibs at salvaging alien scrap from the Battle of New York. In these opening few minutes we learn that he's a proud father, a hard worker, and a seemingly honest man.
I bought trucks for this job. I brought in a whole new crew. These guys have a family. I have a family.
He's just a simple man trying to make his way in the universe. We also see that he has a temper and a volatile ego.
Maybe next time don't overextend yourself.
What'd you say? Yeah. He's right. I overextended myself.
What's a really telling nugget of information about Toomes here is the fact that he calls Native Americans Indians.
When I was a kid, I used to draw cowboys and Indians.
Actually, it's Native American, but...
Tinkerer points out that it's an outdated phrase to which Toomes ignores, thus showing that his thinking has fallen behind the times, and that he's keen to consciously avoid the little details in something that can make all the difference. He's basically gotten to that stage in life where age trumps experience, and he's willingly ignorant to learn anything new or change his opinion. We all know someone like that at Christmas dinners, don't we? As a working class blue collar worker who has started up his own small business, Toomes is very much the underdog compared to the rich reckless playboy Tony Stark, born into his wealth and his opportunities. So it's easy to sympathise with his frustrations when Damage Control, an outfit headed up by Stark, march in and take control of the salvage operation.
So now the assholes who made this mess are getting paid to clean it up?
Yeah, it's all rigged.
It's easy to see why Toomes and his men would come to this conclusion when the events that led to the Battle of New York are so unclear, that the perpetrator was the brother of an Avenger, that the tower used to open the portal was Stark's own, and even the Tesseract was property of S.H.I.E.L.D. At the same time, wasn't it pretty short-sighted of Toomes to think that the government and the Avengers would let anybody pick clean a bunch of alien ships and weaponry? Of course this stuff was going to be seized, it's highly dangerous, and the Avengers are the leading authority in the world when it comes to handling alien technology, even if it is by default.
Default! Woohoo! The two sweetest words in the English language!
And so we cut to six years later to find that Toomes has transformed his business and managed to carry on in spite of nearly going under at the hands of Tony Stark. His team have retrofitted Chitauri tech to take the salvage which they were rightfully owed.
Business is good.
Adrian Toomes was dealt a bad hand in spite of his hard work, but like Norman and Otto, he is of course still to blame for his actions. He claims to cheat and steal for the little guy, but as we see from the size of his home, he's not surviving. He's thriving. This isn't something Toomes is doing to even the odds because the odds were evened a long time ago. Toomes and his crew didn't salvage the Chitauri technology they had, they used it to steal salvage indefinitely. Toomes puts 2 and 2 together and makes 5 in an attempt to justify his actions. Michael Keaton summed up Toomes as a character that likes to play the victim, the underdog. Some people see themselves as victims. He sees himself like that. He has a probably strong argument that he never got a fair shot. A lot of why not me? Where's mine? So we can connect with Toomes as a family man wanting to do right by them and make sure he can continue to bring home the bacon, but we can also see how his greed has taken that to the next degree. A tragedy taken out of his hands, but still to blame for his actions. And it's nice to see how someone like us, a civilian at ground level, would interpret the actions of the Avengers in, well, the Avengers. The ingredients are all there for a fantastic Spider-Man enemy, but where this story really flourishes is when Peter asks out Liz, a girl at school who he had a crush on, to the homecoming dance. This seemingly unconnected thread leads Peter straight into the Vulture's nest, or is that Adrian Toomes' cushy middle-class home? We've been told about the family Toomes is willing to steal for, but now we get to see it up close. The audience gets to experience that connection. And we like Liz across the movie. We see why Peter has a crush on her, and it's clear she's a good person, as is her mother. Knowing Toomes loves them both gives that added bit of texture to his bad deeds. This entire sequence, both in the house and the drive to the dance, just feels super authentic too. I love how much of a full-on dad Toomes goes in this scene.
Hell of a grip.
You got his name right?
Freddy?
Peter.
Wow, 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 do you look beautiful.
Only for his sinister side to emerge as he begins to piece together the truth about Peter.
You were there for like 2 seconds. I was there longer than 2 seconds.
First, Toomes interrogates, then he toys with him.
I bet you were glad when your old pal Spider-Man showed up in the elevator, though.
Toomes has principles and likes to think he's a good guy for only threatening to kill Peter.
Nothing is more important than family. You saved my daughter's life,
And I could never forget something like that, so I'm gonna give you one chance.
Again, I like how Toombs' dialogue exemplifies his background.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you dead.
Yes, that's what killing you means.
In this case, his blue-collar background, saying something that doesn't make grammatical sense, something you wouldn't expect the wealthy elite with the ability to pay their way into the best education to say. It's this kind of subtlety that helps to push this working-class hero, little guy facade.
They don't care about us. We build their roads and we fight all their wars and everything. They don't care about us.
Toombs claims to look out for the little guy, but as I mentioned, he's thriving. He's become the same rich he scolded. When presented with the opportunity to make more cash than he knows what to do with, he takes that road. If he was the son of Howard Stark, you could put good money on the fact that he would beat all the worst parts of Tony. And that statement about fighting their wars, that isn't really correct, is it? Yes, Tony Stark is part of the super rich elite, but I think we'd all find people like Mark Zuckerberg far more palatable if we knew they were risking their lives to save us from world-ending cataclysmic evil forces like Thanos and the Infinity Stones. And you know what? At least he doesn't try to outright murder a child.
And I need a little time to get her airborne.
He threatened to kill Peter earlier, which was bad enough, but here we see that he wasn't just talk. Toombs really will go to any lengths to protect his livelihood. In fact, it seems like the talk that was hollow all along was his spiel about class politics, looking out for the little guy. Toombs has no intention to look out for the little guy. It's all smoke and mirrors so that he can position people in places he wants them. Suddenly looking back, that becomes clearer.
Look. I know you don't give a crap about anything. But I do. I built this whole place because I got people I have to look after.
Yeah. Maybe your wife would like to know where you really get your money from.
You know what? You're right. They work.
I don't know.
I can't afford that.
We see Peter crying, trapped under the rubble, and pleading for help. It's horrifying.
No! Please! Hey, please!
And not unlike seeing Tobey's Peter Parker bloodied and bruised by the Goblin. And it's because of both villains' propensity for viciousness that allows our Spider-Men to grow and assert themselves. Also, how can you not love, even after all of that, once the battle is won, Peter still tries to save Toombs from himself?
Time to go home, Pete.
I'm trying to save you!
That is stone cold Peter Parker.
You once spoke to me about intelligence. That it was a gift to be used for the good of mankind. A privilege. These things have turned you into something you're not. Don't listen to them.
The Vulture is a nemesis that, just like the classic villains, motivates Peter to do the right thing, to remind him of his values and to make him realise that there's more to being a hero than a flashy costume and some pizzazz. Marvel Studios made a big win casting Michael Keaton in the role and choosing John Watts to steer this character's journey, and he's not dead by the end of the movie, hooray! Which sets the stage for his inevitable return, hopefully as part of the Sinister Six. Or maybe, just maybe, Peter can coax the honourable side out of him. After all, the last time we see him, he does keep Peter's secret.
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
Or maybe, just like Norman, what the audience sees is a sham, a proxy to hide Toombs' self-orientated goals. I for one can't wait to find out. What Sam Raimi brought to the original films was something special, and it can never be replicated. The new Spider-Man movies are very different, but I think that's okay. I'd rather have movies that take risks, that cast incredible actors as characters we know and love, and subvert our expectations. The alternative is the Force Awakens method, and if Far From Home has taught us anything, it's not to play it safe. On that note, what did I think of Mysterio? Well, that's a question for another essay. A very in-depth Mysterio essay that will probably come out when Far From Home has its home release. Until then...
Tally-ho.
There have been multiple versions of Spider-Man over the years, but thankfully you only have to look to one place to start building a high-quality website. Squarespace. You can get started straight away with Squarespace's easy-to-use interface and beautiful templates created by Squarespace's award-winning design team. If you're unsure of what you can edit, the Squarespace interface includes easy-to-interpret annotations which show you what you can and can't do on your page. And if you're editing furiously and delete something by mistake, don't worry, you can recover deleted assets with the click of a button from the recycling bin. It really is that easy to get started, and if this isn't enough to persuade you, we can get you a 10% discount, the details of which are in the description. Just head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you've set everything up, go to squarespace.com/fullfat to save 10% off your first purchase. And remember, stay milky. So, we didn't think we'd be doing this, but someone has actually donated $100, which is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Chike.
Honestly, that's awesome. You are, as we said in our Patreon video, literally keeping the lights on. So, no, but seriously, thank you very much. And,
yeah, we're just sort of in shock, aren't we?
Full Fat Videos is going to strange new places. Full Fat Videos just got upgraded, and along with that, we're upgrading our Patreon with new tiers and rewards just for you. Patreon could really help us make Full Fat Videos self-sustaining, and it'll allow us to make better videos and better content for you. For just $1 a month, you'd be helping us out a great deal already, which is why we thank you at the end of every video. Not to mention you'd get exclusive access to Full Fat Milk Posting, a Facebook group where you can talk to us about movies, TV and games, as well as some memes. We like a bit of memes.
For $3, you'll get access to everything from the previous tiers, but you'll also get the chance to watch our videos one day early, as well as get access to exclusive scripts and bloopers.
For just $5 a month, you'll get access to everything from all the other tiers, as well as exclusive access to ask the questions for our monthly Q&As.
And that's not all. For just $10, you'll get access to all of the above, as well as an exclusive commentary track picked by you.
For $100, I mean, you'd be keeping the lights on, so we'd really appreciate it, and we'd probably thank you at the end of every video on camera. You'd be really helping us in any way, shape or form if you could consider contributing to our Patreon. We love making this stuff for you guys, and we'd love to keep making more of it. So thank you, and thank you for watching. We're off to go make some more of that juicy content. We'll see you next time. Stay milky.